You might be trying to film a video while your husband is fixing a door that your dogs ate through. That might be you. You could suffer from compassion fatigue. Today, we're going to talk about something pretty serious. Burnout, compassion fatigue, exhaustion. We're going to talk about what it is, why does it happen, who it happens to, what to do when it happens, and how to prevent it. So let's get started. So what is it? What is burnout? What is compassion fatigue? Well, there's a lot of different names, and each one is probably just slightly different from the next, but it's that feeling of just being stuck. Quite honestly, it's borderline depression, and a lot of times it actually is depression. You're flat out tired. You feel depleted. You are exhausted. You've lost your spark. You have lost your passion. You've lost your why. You don't know why you're doing what you're doing anymore. You're out of F's to give. You couldn't care another ounce. You're ready to give up. You have already given up. That's what it is. That's what it looks like. But why is it happening? This happens when we run flat out. It happens when we pour our heart, our soul, and our energy into one thing, or try to pour that into everything all at once. It happens when we forget to take care of ourselves. When we forget that we can't keep giving unless we refill our tanks. It happens when we deal with sad, terrible, and awful things as part of our daily job. It happens when we don't have the time, the money, the energy, or the ability to take a break. When we don't feel like we can slow down. When we forget to focus on the positives. Or when there's so much negativity and stress around us that we can't. It happens when we don't have a way to get away. It happens when we don't have a way to turn off or turn down. So who does it happen to? Well, you hear about this a lot in the medical profession, in the veterinary profession, in the animal care profession, even in teaching and in psychology. In these professions where people are dealing with sad, depressing, and awful things on a daily basis. Or when it's a thankless job, when you care and care and care, and it doesn't feel like anyone is caring for you. But it can happen to anyone, and it can happen to everyone if you're not learning how to take care of yourself. You might be a gas station attendant. You can suffer from burnout. You might be a construction worker. You can suffer from burnout. You might be a doctor. You can definitely suffer from burnout. You might be an executive or middle management or a server at a restaurant or a teacher or a dog walker. You can suffer from compassion fatigue and burnout and stress. It doesn't matter who you are or what profession you're in, you can still suffer from burnout, from compassion fatigue, from exhaustion. It can happen to you. But what do we do about it when this thing rears its ugly head? This time, I have 6 tips. There's a lot we can do about it. Let's start with tip number 1. Acknowledge it. This one's a pretty simple tip. You just have to realize that you are burnt out, exhausted, tired, fatigued, or all of those things. You have to acknowledge it. Wow, I'm feeling pretty stressed. Simple as that. Number 2 is to have a support team. This support team might help you recognize it. Hey, Lindley, you're not seeming like yourself. What's going on? Or they might just be there to pick you up when you say, help. Number 3, you've got to go into emergency happiness mode. First off, you have to make a list of all the things that light you up. Now, this concept is not mine. It belongs to Ramona Zabriskie, who wrote the book Wife for Life. And this book is all about giving you the power to succeed in your own marriage. So if that applies to you, I highly encourage you to check it out. And while that seems kind of far from compassion fatigue, I would say most couples who are facing divorce are feeling just that. One of her tactics is actually called delights. And these delights are simple, tiny things that make your day better. It might be driving with the windows down. It might be stopping for a donut on a tough day. They could be dancing in the rain. It could be taking a hike. It could be staying in the shower just a little bit longer. Maybe you like to spend some time in a hammock, put your toes in the sand, or just feel the sun on your face. It could be reading a book to your kids. It might be reading a book by yourself. Maybe you like to play the piano. It could be clean sheet day. They're small, tiny, inexpensive things that fill your tank. Another part of going into emergency happiness mode is to do a gratitude journal. Every day, write down what you're thankful for. Every day there's a bright spot, I promise. You just have to look hard enough to find it. And that's where your support team can come in to help too. That support team, they can help you find your bright spots. And the last part of being in emergency happiness mode is spending time with positive people. So it's really important that when you need a dose of happiness, you're not hanging out with negative Nancy, or worst case Raleigh. You're filling your time with people who see the positive and who will continually remind you of that as well. Number 4 is to set aside some time to actually feel things. We don't want to get swallowed up by these feelings of stress, by these feelings of sadness, but they're important feelings to feel. So set aside some time to feel them. Just set a time limit on it. I'm going to spend 10 minutes in the bathroom by myself feeling sad, and that's perfectly fine. Number 5 is to focus on what you are achieving, the things you are getting done. Sometimes when we're feeling burnt out and exhausted, it's because our to-do list is never ending. I created what's called a Kanban board for myself. So my Kanban board had 6 sections. Number 1, to do. Section 2 are things that are in progress, things that I'm working on. The 3rd section is waiting. These are things that I'm waiting on someone else to move to the next step. I might have sent an email to my boss waiting for him to review it, or I might be waiting for a certain date to be able to complete a project. Number 4 is dreams and goals. They're not quite formulated ideas well enough yet that can end up on the actual to-do list. Section 5 for me is delegated. Is there anything that I've given to someone else that I need to make sure that I'm following up on? And number 6 is the most important one. Finished. Done. That's where I put all the things I've completed. And each category has post-its with all my ideas. Most of the time when I'm feeling stressed out and overwhelmed, it's because all of the things are stuck inside my head. So I get them out onto my Kanban board and then I can watch them move through. And as that finish section grows, so does my happiness and my contentment. What decreases? My stress and exhaustion. Number 6 is to take action. You have to have some action steps to move you forward. So look at your list of challenges, your list of problems, and take small actions. Make sure you set goals that are easy, simple, attainable, and quick. If something has been sitting on my to-do list or my Kanban board for too long, it's likely too big, and I need to break it down into smaller steps. I'm an animal trainer, remember? Tiny, small approximations to build our big behaviors. So those are the 6 steps for dealing with this stuff when it comes up. Number 1, acknowledge it. Number 2, have a support team. Number 3, go into emergency happiness mode. Number 4, set aside time to feel things. Number 5, set up some way of tracking your progress. And number 6 is to make sure your goals are small enough that you can actually accomplish them and take action. All right, that's what we do when we're feeling burnt out, but how do we prevent it altogether? In order to do that, you're going to take all of the things from the list that we just talked about. Then you're going to implement them into your daily routine. You're going to make emergency happiness mode a year-round event. Maybe a gratitude journal will be part of your thing. Maybe your delights will be a daily routine. Maybe you're going to set goals for your delights, like I'm going to do 3 delights every day. And then when it's time to really dig in, when things are really tough, up the ante. You're going to spend time with positive people all the time. Assess your friends list. Who needs to go? Make living a positive life your daily life. Likely you won't suffer from this stress, exhaustion, and burnout nearly as often. Thanks so much. Hope this helps you deal with burnout and compassion fatigue, move forward, and see the positive part of the day. Join us next time.